Some approaches are over before they've even begun. This week I was reviewing approaches with a client and I started to notice a pattern that was getting him rejected way more than he should have been. He told me a story of how he'd gone out and he was going to do a day of approaching. He'd gone with a friend and he saw a girl and he walked up to her and she was stood at a traffic light, and he walked up and ended up standing sort of parallel next to her, and he was just going for the standard approach of like, hey, you look cute, what's your name? Like, this is my name, etc. And he just kind of sort of blurted it out. The issue was the girl didn't even really react. Then a few seconds later, she sort of half darted her eyes towards him and then looked back in front. And then he started to feel very activated, very anxious about the situation, felt rejected, and in kind of a moment of panic almost, despite the fact that the light had not even turned green, kind of started walking into the traffic and just kind of pushing his way forward. Clearly, the girl, also feeling sort of anxious at the situation, just defaulted to following him and then into the road as well. So they had this awkward situation where they were both having to sort of like move around cars. The whole thing just felt off, and it's fair to say it was not the best approach. So he ran me through a few more of his approaches that he'd gone through that day. And it just seemed to be a pattern occurring that was really ruining him. And it was the fact that he kept starting to speak to a girl before he had her attention. And this is a common problem that guys have, that I notice a lot, that because they're nervous, because they're anxious about having to walk over, go and speak to her, they're up in their head, they try and rush the interaction. So they don't give a girl time to try and shift gears, to go from being about her day to then suddenly jumping into this conversation with a guy. They've just kind of gone over and been like, hey, hi, it's nice to meet you, my name's Andrew, you look cute. And they're just like, what has happened? Because when you don't give a girl the chance to like give her attention to you before you open your mouth and start speaking, kind of three things can happen. One, which is, this is actually the worst thing, because if you do this, there's no real coming back from it, if I'm honest. Because if you open your mouth, blurt out, and she really wasn't ready for it, and you startle her, her walls go up, they go sky high, and she is just not willing to really engage after that point, because almost like her fear receptors have kicked in. She just doesn't want to have anything to do with you. So if you go over and then just startle a girl, it's game over. That's like not really going to work. Secondly, she might just mishear you. If you've opened your mouth and started speaking, she doesn't hear you properly, she wasn't paying attention for that, so then she might misconstrue what you're after, she doesn't really understand what's going on, and it just causes confusion. Or even thirdly, she doesn't give you the attention, and then you try and start speaking, and it just kind of devalues your own words. You've not really treated yourself with that much respect. It's kind of like, picture a teacher walking into a classroom and deciding that he's going to start trying to teach the lesson, even though there's a bunch of kids at the back still making noise, misbehaving. All it does is communicate that what I have to say can't really be that important because I'm not commanding your attention and bringing it in. So that brings us back to that situation he was going through, and this was repeating itself. He was putting himself in these situations where he wasn't going over, giving the girl the opportunity to give him like the attention required for him to make the approach. So how do we get a girl's attention? Well, I can tell you what you don't do. You don't just go over there and like bat her on the shoulder and just be like, hi. Like, by and large, you shouldn't really ever need to touch a girl, because that's where like issues start to arise, let's say, when you go over there and you're just like, without any consent, just like batting her on the shoulder and doing all these kind of things. Instead, in 99% of the cases, you should be able to just use body language to get a girl's attention. For millennia, we communicated without having to use our verbal vocal cords. Instead, we just use hand signals, and that's what I recommend we do. Using your palm. This is what I do. In almost any given situation, you should be able to signal that you're wanting to start a conversation. And when you put your palm out like this, it's such a clear signal to our brain to like pay attention. It's like almost like a stop interrupt pattern. So say a girl is walking towards me right now and I'm sort of interested. I'm going to smile, open, be warm and receptive, sort of go for eye contact and put my palm out like that. She's going to acknowledge something is about to happen. She's then going to change and put her attention towards me for me to then go, hi, I thought your hat was really cute. I wanted to introduce myself. Like whatever it is, that hat line got me an instant date and she did have a cute hat. But what it did was allow her to set herself for, I'm in my girl day, woohoo, Taylor Swift, let's do it. Oh, hand symbol, oh, this guy wants to say something. Oh, okay, he's hitting on me, cool. Rather than just her going about her day and then suddenly you're just like careering into it and she's got to adjust. You didn't give her the appropriate opportunity to change how, like, her state of mind. And this works for any given situation. If I'm sat down on a bench and there's maybe a girl next to me, what I'll do is I'll just take my hand and I'll just put it into her vision, and it will just, anywhere in her vision, if a human kind of sees just like a flat palm, it creates this like eye contact interest, and then they follow it up, then they look at me and I'm like, hi, I didn't want to interrupt, I can see you're reading, but I thought it was amazing that you were actually reading rather than being on your phone like every other person out here. Oh, cool, etc., etc. So in any situation, it's also, right, why not? Let's just keep doing more demos. Say the girl's walking in front of me. This is what happened with the girl that eventually became my current girlfriend. She was walking up the hill in front of me. I knew I couldn't just come up behind her and just like startle her. That's like bad idea. So what I needed to do was be able to put myself in a position to be in her field of vision. So we kind of like, we take a wider berth. Obviously takes picking up the pace a bit. And now I'm starting to become level with her. I'll get about 3 steps ahead, and then I'm starting to shift my body to face her and putting my hand up to just be like, hi. And then she doesn't even have to exactly break stride, but she can tell something's happening. This person wants to speak to me, and I'm slowly easing into like her range around her. And it makes her feel easy because I'm smoothly going through this. There's no jarringness. And that's the thing. When you approach in public, they have such little information about you that every single little thing is actually quite important, and it conveys a lot of information about who you are. Hi. And your ability to lead, like, has that person effectively led me through this interaction? Have they done this first few 10 seconds in a confident manner? Does he feel experienced? And that's what it does. Did he care about my state of mind when he went across? These are really key factors to help a girl. And now, I said this covered like 99% of situations. So what's the other 1%? Okay, if you're in a position where you really can't kind of get into her field of vision, she's faced away from you. I had this when I was in Bulgaria and there was a girl, she walked past me, and I could tell she actually looked at me at the time. I was just on my phone, poor form. And I got up and circled round to kind of catch up with her. She was walking with her mum. And she'd stopped a little bit further up the road and she was looking into a bookstore. So there wasn't really any opportunity for me to be able to get in her field of vision. So instead, I just said, excuse me. And I paused, I allowed her to turn around, I let her put her attention on me, and then I went with what I had to say. I didn't begin talking and speaking about who I was, the important stuff, before I felt like her attention had swapped to being on me. And that meant that interaction went pretty well as well, because it'd given her the opportunity. So, for too many men out there, they end up ruining perfectly good opportunities to be able to speak to a girl just because of that like nervousness to get it over and done with. Oh my God, I've walked over here. Oh God, hi, all of this kind of stuff. When instead it's taking that moment, ensuring you're settled, she's put her attention on you before you begin to speak. Because this also gets you out of having to do too many rejections. Because if she's not really willing to give you the attention, if you put your hand out and she just kind of keeps on like walking past, it's highly unlikely she would have been willing to engage with you anyway. That was more of like a passive rejection as opposed to an outright one if I'd have stopped her and just been like, you look cute, and she's like, no. So it gives you an ability to not have to face as much blunt rejection. So the grounding rule is make sure you have their attention before you start to speak. And now you have their attention, you've started to speak. What comes next? What is it that you then go into to be able to turn this girl from a complete stranger into someone that maybe would want to go on a date with you? Well, I've got a video of exactly what I've done in every successful interaction and every successful one that's led to a date, of what I've done in that 60 seconds that comes next. And if you want to know what those steps are, check out this video here, and I detail the 3 things I do in every single successful interaction that makes sure it goes as well as possible. Let's go with that. Catch you there.